be about how to cut your token usage by 60% or more. It's a bold claim, I know. And yeah, let's see if I can deliver on that and see how you guys apply to what I change in your coming weeks. First of all, however, I would like to say thank you for Dominic. Thank you also for Rai being online here. So thank you guys for organizing this. Thank you for the space. So maybe we can just all clap a little bit for these guys. And then before I get into the talk, I know we all come from different backgrounds, all use probably Claude in different ways, maybe different parts of Claude as well. Maybe by show of hands, I would just like to get a sense on, let's say, Claude Code. Has everyone here used Claude Code? Yeah, okay, most. So how about Claude Cowork? That's pretty similar. And then the desktop app, I guess, everyone, or the phone app. So as you can already see, we have like different people that might not use Claude Code specifically. So some of my techniques or things that I share will be mostly useful to Claude Code. However, there are also things that will be broadly applicable to everyone. So I try to do justice to everyone, so bear with me. Okay, little background about me, not much. I'm a data and analytics specialist at DMN Digital. It's a digital marketing agency. So I'm not a dev, I'm not an engineer. So I'm just a normal guy, stumbled across Claude Code and loved it and use it for personal work or also for my work as well. And then just quick background in case some people might need it. What is a token? So a token is basically Claude's reading and writing budget per session. To simplify it, in every word in and every word out basically costs tokens. So this is kind of the fundamentals and some of the things that I'm going to talk about. And then, yeah, obviously tokens therefore cost real money regardless of how you're going to use it. It also costs you context, which is not necessarily just about the money attached to it, but also the quality. So this is one of the other things that this applies to. It's not just you saving maybe a couple dollars on if you were to use the API, or maybe you can go on a cheaper plan. That's not necessarily just about this or not hitting your session limits, but it's also about getting better outcome for every session. Because as I can imagine, most people probably hit a session limit or a 7-day limit, so that's quite common. So maybe we can, after the session, all find ways to reduce that a little bit. Yeah, first of all, specifically to Claude Code, there are a couple of things. I know Joshua already talked about it, that you can use. For example, simple thing, /clear. As he already mentioned, not going to go too deep into it. And then you also have compact, which is another one. The difference there between the two, you have clear to basically give it a completely blank slate. Sorry, guys. And then you have compact, which basically compresses what you've been talking about and still gives a little bit of that context back in that session. So as a general rule of thumb, whenever you can, just use basically fresh sessions. That doesn't matter which part of Claude you're working with. That's always going to be helpful for your context, always going to be helpful for your token usage as well. Then we can talk a little bit about the architecture behind it. First point is like very, very, very strong here, but if you can avoid MCP service, do so. I know there's a lot of talk about it, depending on what circles you're in. A lot of people love to just talk about MCP service. There's nothing wrong with it at all, but if you can use other ways to, for example, get the same information, like use skills, use the CLI, if there is one, very often there is, if you just search for it. If there isn't, I've seen a lot of people just build their own one. So that's also a better way to work with Claude and actually reduce the tokens. The reason behind that is, for the ones that might not have that understanding or background, is that the MCP server, regardless of whether you use it or not, it will always load, versus a skill or CLI, it will basically be triggered based upon what you give as your instructions. So that's why in the very beginning, if you were to look at your basically context and token loaded into the session, that can sometimes be very bloated, not just the Claude MD file, which of course is one of the other points. Joshua mentioned like the 200 lines there as a broad kind of rule of thumb. But also, yeah, these MCP servers, that's one of the things you can easily save a lot of tokens just through that. Then another one is you can build skills. As most people that work with Claude Code, that's no news, but just to keep that always in your top of mind, to build skills for repetitive tasks, because don't forget, the skills have everything, or should have everything if you build them the right way, should have everything they need in there to give that context and basically the instructions without you giving a prompt, and then a couple conversations down the line, you actually get to the same point that you would have gotten if you would have had a skill for it. So this is always a simple thing to build a skill for something that you've done more than twice or like a couple times, to just think of these things that you do multiple times and then build a skill for it. Then one thing that maybe not a lot of people think about, but Dominic kind of talked about it earlier, and Marie as well, like not everything needs to be in Claude. So you can build web apps, you can build scripts, tools, whatever it is, that obviously then don't cost you any tokens anymore once you've built it. So this is one of the other ways how you can actually reduce your tokens if you're not actually doing all the work in Claude and just work. I know there's a lot of romanticizing, I guess, from some people about doing everything in Claude. There are even some people that just brag about it. But there are certain things that you can just either automate, you build a web app for certain things, instead of like a simple thing. I give you a simple example. One of the things I didn't even include in this is actually files as well. So they can sometimes bloat your context, bloat your tokens as well. So an example would be a PDF file. One PDF file, depending on obviously if it's 5 pages or 500 pages, very different. But generally speaking, it takes way more tokens than an MD file. And structurally, it's not that hard to do one over the other. So what I did, this is a simple converter from PDF to MD, which lives just locally. And every time I have a PDF, check it in there, comes out as MD, and there you go. And it is actually the natural language. Obviously, everything that Claude writes itself is always going to be MD files as well. So that's one of the other things, if you haven't thought about, you can look into. Then also been talked about a little bit today too. You can also use cheaper models for easier tasks. I know a lot of people always want to use the latest model and that for everything. Nothing wrong with that. But from a perspective of token usage, you can obviously be a little more deliberate on which model you use for which task, because a lot of tasks really don't need the latest model. Let's face it, there are a lot of things that you can achieve with cheaper models, even local models. So there's another point. I have the great other resources out there that you can use. And that's not to say don't use Claude, because we're all here because we love Claude. And I'm not saying choose something else over Claude, but I'm saying just explore other options if they exist, and they might help you reduce some tokens as well. And within Claude as well, you also have Haiku, you have Sonnet, in case you always just work on Opus. I think Sonnet is still, up until now, a great model to use for a lot of tasks. Then when it comes to Claude Code specifically, you can also use that as a mindset for other tasks. As with humans, as much as it is with LLMs, the better context you give, the better the overall conversation will go from there on, right? So the more you can give upfront, there are multiple ways of doing that. There are skills you can also either develop or get from the internet that help you with that, usually in some sort of interviewing sense as well. Usually what happens, we are only humans. Very often we might not know ourselves exactly all the details, how we want to have something done or how something is supposed to look, especially if we just say, okay, Claude, just do it. It's actually really helpful if you ask it to interview you, because during that process, you actually get to form your own idea on what you want to do. And sometimes you didn't have that upfront because you didn't ask the right questions. So yeah, it's one thing to keep in mind. So these were all things you kind of do manually. And now we're looking at things that you kind of plug and play, and they help you reduce tokens on autopilot, basically. There are two repos that are online. Before I go into them, I have that also as a disclaimer as well later on. Obviously, everything online, always with a grain of salt. Use your own sense if you have it, if you understand what you're reading. If you don't, ask Claude. Give it the repo, ask it, are there any security issues? Is there anything wrong with this? Are there any backdoors, whatever? So always be careful, obviously. And yeah, so that's one to keep in mind before you download anything just randomly off the internet. So just because I say so, don't just download this. But I use it and it's good. So
sorry, maybe a quick one.
Yeah.
I have had a few workshops recently with people who are going to companies and like teach them how to use Claude Cowork and Claude Code. And this is something that needs to click for a lot of people. If you go to like ClawHub or skills website shares, and you go like, oh, this skill says it can like read all my LinkedIn posts and or all my LinkedIn things or do something amazing. Just go and look at the text with your 2 human eyes and read like we used to do, not in books, but read the screen, read what it says, because 30% of skills on certain sharing sites have backdoors, have instructions to extract your data. So be careful. Do you go to the internet and download a random program from a website that you don't know? Probably not. We learned about that, right? We don't do that. Downloading a skill from any random website, it's the same thing, right? Don't go and just blindly download skills and run them. The ones that he's mentioning here, I've heard enough about that. They should be safe if you get them from the right source.
But as I said, like, don't take my word, don't take Dominic's word. Like, do your own research. Use Claude to assess. They actually now even skills or ways of vetting, like the security on them. It's kind of funny. Like, what if there's a security backdoor in the security vetting skill? But that's another thing. So yeah, just do your due diligence on them. And also, you don't even have to download it. You can just point Claude at it and say, what is this about? Build it for me. Done. And then it can't have any, unless you say, Claude, make a backdoor or something. But obviously, like then it should be fine. That's the other point. So you don't have to necessarily go with that. But it's just pointing at what these things can do, what they stand for. So this is the first one. It's called Caveman. It's quite strong in its wording. So it's basically a skill that switches Claude into like ultra compressed response mode. And yeah, I show you in a second how that can look like. And yeah, so that can drastically reduce the tokens. This is actually one I try to get a sense on how much impact it actually has. These numbers here, take them with a grain of salt. I didn't vet them, nor did I find a way to actually prove it. But they're floating numbers on how much it might, when a little bit, yeah, kind of in the range of what it might be able to do. But the important thing there is, and I think that's one of the things that some people might be hesitant on, whether or not you use this exact thing, whether you clone it, whether you build your own, is about the accuracy of the output. Am I still going to be able to understand it? And that's why, first of all, you don't have to use it. Second of all, there are obviously, it's like a scale, right? You don't have to, it's not 0 or 1. You can kind of tone it to your liking. So this specific one comes with like different levels that you can choose. And it doesn't have to be as extreme as it looks like on the screen now, where it's, as an example, where you were asking Claude how to boil pasta, and it's like, first of all, fill your large pot with cold water, and place it on the stove, so on and so forth. And then the extreme version would be pot, water, high heat, boil, salt, pasta in, 8 to 12 minutes, drain, done. The point here is, again, don't take that one-to-one, but the point here is, it gets the point across, right? It says everything that you're supposed to know from it. And again, this is specifically for Claude Code. So most of the time, what I found is the kind of little bits of information where Claude actually responds to you, tells you what it does, what it has done, what it will look at. That's not really something I need in a really, really long output anyway. Like if it tells me that in this little kind of condensed version, I'm fine with it. I get what it did. And to be honest, as I said, I'm not an engineer. If it were to go in the nitty-gritty bit on telling me what the code basically did, but not in the human language, but like actually engineer, I wouldn't understand it anyway. So from that point of view, I think having that condensed version not only helps me with the tokens, but also what it also helps with is like the kind of space on screen, right? Like if you have like a big output and it keeps on giving you big outputs, it actually takes up a lot of your screen. Like if you have to scroll a lot too. So it's another thing to keep in mind. Then there's another one, again, same caveat to this. Take it with a grain of salt, do your own due diligence on it. This one is called RTK, Rust Token Killer. Also quite strong in its wording. It basically works as a hook, and before it does anything, it basically intercepts anything that it will do, and then it runs that first, and that reduces a lot of the tokens through that. It's way more technical than the first one, because the first one is literally just about language. This one is actually the tool calling behind it, which is compared to the first one, completely different way of reducing the tokens. But yeah, so this could look like this, but again, it's literally just the visualization of it. It's more what it represents behind it. Then I have two that I built myself. I have in the resource section at the end a prompt and also the exact file. And as I said before, just because I did it, also don't trust me. What if I did something here to screw you over? So there's the prompt also. You can just take the prompt. That's fine. So two things. One is the Quota status line. So it's very simple. It actually doesn't help you reduce tokens. It actually only helps you keep on top of it. So it shows you the 5-hour and the 7-day token usage. And I don't know how much of you have something like this. But if you see a couple of hands here, but if you don't, I don't know if you've done that before, but I've seen myself constantly go to Claude, and go to the usage, and it's like so annoying if you're actually not even in the desktop app, like if you're in VS Code or Terminal, whatever IDE you're using, and then you have to go to the desktop app, which sometimes I even hadn't had open up until that point in that session. So yeah, so I thought, why don't we build like a little status line? It's not exactly how it looks like for me, how it looks like on screen, but it's giving you the gist of it. That's essentially the point there. And what that does is keeping that top of mind. Also, one of the things that when it comes to context, not necessarily the token usage, but when it comes to the context, what you find is obviously the closer you get to these limits, the quality of output will naturally decline a little bit, because it will try to get your task done in as efficient as it can, and sometimes that's unfortunately detriment to the quality. And this helps a lot with understanding, okay, where am I? Where am I with my session limit? Where am I with my 7-day limit? So again, build it yourself if you want to. I find it very useful. Then one I also did myself is like a handoff skill. So what that does is, in conjunction with the /clear specifically, this skill basically writes like a summary file of what the session was about. And then I have a command which is /handoff, and then it does that. And once that is done, I can do /clear. Then I do again /handoff, and it takes that, what I just put, or what it just created, I don't do anything, what it just created in that file, and has exactly the context that it needed without actually reading through the whole conversation again, because that's one of the things how you will find you will burn naturally a lot of tokens too. If you just keep on going with the same session, what it does is actually, even if you don't want it to, it reads to basically the whole context again. And that's quite inefficient. So this is one of the ways how you can also use other tools out there if you were to have like a summary that you can then give to another tool and basically work off the same structure, the same kind of project that you were working on, and continue where you left off. And yeah, so these are kind of the 4 tools which you can get here. Hopefully it works. I leave that on the screen. Next slide would only be any questions. So I leave that there for you guys. If you do have any questions, do that now, and then leave that QR code there.
All right. Keep it up. Oh yeah, if you have some questions, all right, there we go.
2 questions. One, is GitHub like the right way to download like a skill, or is it safe to do that?
GitHub itself?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, but GitHub itself, it's what's on it, I would say. Like.
Okay,
so
GitHub itself is a platform to share things. What is shared is not necessarily vetted or security checked, right? I can go up to GitHub and upload something, he uploads something to GitHub. Every one of you can upload something to GitHub. I can upload something that is malicious. And there is a chance that somebody goes like, hey, this is not right, this is trying to hack your something, and it can get reported. GitHub might take it down, but it might take a while. Just because it's on GitHub doesn't make it safe.
Yeah.
Use your eyes, read it ask Claude to read it and understand it before you install it.
Until Claude's until the.
Oh, you had a second question?
Sorry, can we accumulate the two? Like, for example, I'm using Caveman for a few months. Can I use on top of that the other one? Like RTK?
Yeah. I mean, these are, again, this is also, don't just do this, do whatever you want and what works for you, but essentially you can stack how many things on top of one another. Some might kind of cancel each other out, and they might not make sense, not relating to these two, but in general, like that's why, again, like ask Claude or do some sort of own research on what it does. I've certainly looked at other tools and repos out there, and sometimes it's just like there's nothing new there that we don't have, basically. And that's also one of the things you might find with things online. They might package something nicely, but it's something you might already have in your setup.
Great talk.
Thank you.
Definitely going to check out a few of those. I would love to understand the process you went through when thinking about token and token reduction when you started looking at your tool cooling and your skill development.
What I went
How you
through.
thought about it.
Well, in the beginning, I didn't really. I just went on, using Claude as much as I could, and then eventually you run into your first limits, and then I thought, okay, what can be done to kind of be a little bit more efficient about it? I think that's kind of where it started. I don't know, maybe I in general like to explore ways to be a little bit efficient. I don't know if that's the German in me wanting to. I don't know. Like it's certain things trying to be as something going a long way. It's just maybe that was the thought behind it. I know it wasn't a great answer, but I hope.
Back to the beginning of the talk, you said avoid using MCPs. If I'm using an MCP because I want to use a API for a platform, what should I do instead?
Great question, and that's why I stopped there for a second here. And let me just go on that a little bit longer. I'm not saying don't use MCPs. I was just making the point, especially from the angle of token efficiency. So first of all, do whatever you want to do, but also there are times where I'm not saying don't use MCPs, but there might be ways where that might be a little bit more efficient if you were to use other ways of getting that data. But again, it doesn't have to be. Maybe, as I said, some people build their own CLI for things, and sometimes other options might be inferior. And then the MCP is worthwhile to use. But yeah, I would just angling it from the view of token usage. And if you don't even have any sort of issues with how much of your token to use, then just go on, marry your way and kind of continue what you're doing. But yeah, so I would just say from that angle only, and take that with a grain of salt.
Hey, great talk, that was fantastic.
Thank you.
If you've got Caveman installed, how does that impact, say, creative writing if you need to write a blog post or draft copy for a website? How do you manage that?
Fantastic question, and thanks for asking that, by the way. I did talk only about the output of the kind of structural thinking that it will give you, but it actually doesn't affect the actual output of the code, doesn't affect the files, because then it would be completely useless, to your point. Because then why would I be using this? Doesn't make any sense. But it's the little bits of information in between when it says, I have done this this blog post now, or let me read the competitors, and then it tells you that. And instead of giving you 10 lines, it might just give you a couple words. Yeah, but the actual output of, in this case, the blog post as an example, is not affected.
with the when you showed the example of the Caveman output, I just looked at it, it's like so much token wastage. There's so many full stops.
Right, right, I know.
You could save like 5 tokens.
But you know how like you can still read something even if you take certain letters out of a word. So you can take that to even more extremes if you want to, if you still understand it, up to you.
Yeah. But yeah, the quick one on what the question you had, if you can put RTK and Caveman. So Caveman is instructing Claude what to output and how much to use. RTK is intercepting Claude's communication with certain command line things. So it's cutting down on what Claude sees. What goes, so Claude, when you use Claude Code or Cowork, in the background it's calling like the Git binary, the Git CLI, and RTK is intercepting that and stripping out unnecessary fluff from that. So that's why these things work very good on top of each other.